So welcome everyone, and I just want to begin by saying that this is a very interactive call and a very hands-on call. So you want to have your pen and paper handy for the entire call, and that's the idea, is that this is a hands-on workshop where you're actually applying what I'm teaching to your own business now. And I'm going to go more into what this cycle of networking means, but essentially we are in the cycle of networking now. So this is the universal timing for us all to really focus on our networks. So there's purpose in the timing of this class. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me that well, my name's Natalie Kent, and I have been doing this natural cycle planning work for about 3 years now. So I'm the creator of the Natural Cycle Planner, the Sacred Money Blueprint, and also the Creator Type. Some of you are familiar with those, but they are all nature-based systems that help us to attune to nature in business and how we operate our business to generate a livelihood. So that's kind of my specialty. I'm a nature nut. I've come out of corporate, 10 years in corporate as an IT project manager, and I realized when I left that I needed to blend my intuition with my planning brain in order to be successful in my own business. It was a very different world I was stepping into. So that is really how this natural cycle planning process was born, and it's focused on balancing flow with structure, and you'll see more about that today. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you all. Today we are going to talk about networking, and I want you all to see where that fits in the context of the full natural year. What I mean by this is that throughout the year, the aim with natural cycle planning is to do business in balance. And it means that we look at the 12 main functions of operating a business and make sure that we have a different focus each month. So by the end of the 12 months, they are all covered. We haven't left anything out, and we've given equal attention to all those functions. Now, we use the 4 elements of earth, fire, air, and water to help us to see the different qualities that we need to embody and apply in our work in order to have a balanced approach. It doesn't matter if you're into astrology or not. Some people are, some aren't, but this is just a universal guidance system for us to tap into what's the theme for this cycle. So the cycle of Libra that we're in now equates to networking. So Librans are natural networkers, and that's the energy that we really want to tap into in ourselves to become more effective networkers and expand our networks every single year. So this is a layered approach. Every year at this time, you will really be focusing on your networks. And the idea is that you build that process each year. You become more adept at these skills that I'm going to teach you today, and your networks become stronger, broader, more embedded as a support system for your business. So today, you can see here we're working in an air sign, and if we look at the sacred business growth cycle, some of you have seen this. If you haven't, I go into more detail about this in some of my other free videos that you can access via the Facebook group. But essentially, this iterative process, this cycle, helps us to see what stage of business we are at in our whole growth cycle. So a new business, for example, starts as a seed or multiple seeds. We see which one germinates, which one takes root. That's through testing different markets and offers. Once it takes root, we go into the roots phase, and that's where we really build stability, money flow, systems, organization, all of that in our business to support its ongoing growth. So, and Danielle's asking, is this something you created, Nat, so everything gets covered off? Yes. So I think you're referring to the previous slide, Danielle, but both of these are created just to find that balance of covering all tasks, but also having a high-level guidance or planning system to follow. So I wasn't just kind of going with the wind, so to speak, or going with whatever kind of grabbed my attention at the time, or whatever was urgent in my business, that I actually had a focus and a priority each week and each month of the year. So once the roots have been established with the business tree, it starts to grow its canopy, and the branches branch out. They become stronger, broader, wider, and the leaves fill up that canopy. So that's where your marketing, your reach starts to expand. And this is the cycle we are in. So this one here, some of you've seen this planner. I'll be showing you more about that later. But the networking function of business sits in this third quadrant of leaves. So this is just to give you some context of where this sits in all of the business functions and in the overall growth of your business. This one is about expansion. And the final cycle is the fruit cycle. This is where you're really refining and evolving your business for the next cycle. So the fruit on the tree comes when you have solid or consolidated each of the prior stages of growth. So if you've watered your seed well, if it has strong roots, if the canopy is nice and full, you will get great, sweet, tasty fruit. So this is the context that we're working within for natural cycle planning. This is what we use to guide us. Now, some of you are used to this. Every month I give a natural timing tip. And last month we had animal messages as the tip. And the purpose of these natural timing tips are threefold. They're really to help you to tap into ripe timing, what is going to help you grow your business sustainably, and what is the natural rhythm of your business. This is really what we mean by natural timing. So you may have had the experience of when you're creating an offering that sometimes it can be premature to release it. And other times you might have left it too long, so the fruit starts to go rotten. So in between there is ripe timing, when it is the perfect time for you to release your seed, whatever it is that you're sharing with the world, not a moment too soon or too late. And that then helps the universe respond to that ripe timing, so you get the optimal results. And I can give many, many examples of this happening for myself and for my clients over the last 3 years. In fact, that's actually how the Natural Cycle Planner evolved. It was very much a case of having exact right timing, and when that ebook and the whole planner itself was released, I had a really amazing response. But I hadn't had that kind of response prior to learning about ripe timing. I'd released things and gotten crickets, and not had any sense of timing for what I was releasing into the world. So timing is critical. Success is in the timing, as I say. So this helps you to grow your business sustainably, because you're really working in cooperation with Mother Earth, who governs the cycles of life, who governs life itself. And when we're in attunement with that, we can really start to get a sense of being part of something bigger, that we're not operating in isolation, and we're being supported throughout the whole creation process. So natural rhythm is getting a sense of your internal rhythm. So inside us all, there is a rhythm. And women, of course, living cyclically are typically very attuned to this, or they're naturally inclined to be attuned to this. But we all have that internal rhythm. And this natural timing tip is designed to activate your internal rhythm. Previous to this, the animal messages, some of the other tips were walking barefoot on the earth, for example. Feeling that frequency, that energy in support of us, soul to soul on the earth. Not wearing shoes, not insulating ourselves from the mother, but feeling her with every step. When you apply these kinds of natural timing tips in your life, small changes start to happen naturally. You don't have to make them happen. It's quite magical. So the tip for today, or this cycle, is the sun and moon transition. This is where we start to really become masters of cycles, because really what a cycle is the end of something and the beginning of something new. It's a transition in the middle. Every single day this happens, with the sun going down and rising in the morning. In between that time when the sun is coming up in the morning and the moon is going down, it's like this changeover happens. It's a magical energy that is sparking the new day. And this is a rhythm. This is something that I'm only really getting more acquainted with myself, because I haven't been historically a sunrise person. I haven't gotten up every morning really early, but I'm starting to do it more and more. And it's a magical time to set your intention for the day, to see what is ending and what is beginning. Same at the end of the day. When you see the sun go down, it's a closure of the day. And you can go to sleep in that, also that magical dreaming period of nighttime, and you're in transition leading into something new the next day. So it's like you're naturally attuning to cycles if you live your days in this way. Welcome the sun, say goodbye to the sun, and say hello to the moon as well, and goodbye to the moon in the morning. So just test it out and see how it has an impact on you and how you live your days, how you start to relate to cycles, that closure and the beginning that happens for each of us. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get stuck into networking now. Networking is, natural networking I should say, is very different from traditional networking. And there are a few reasons why, but essentially traditional working is what's in it for me. Have you had that? Hands up if you've had that experience of being preyed upon, people want something from you, or maybe you've done it yourself. I know I've done it mistakenly. Approaching a relationship, a conversation, a connection from that mindset of what am I going to get out of this? So it comes across as forced, artificial, and you don't get the kind of friendly response or open response that you could have. With natural networking, we see things differently. So just like this leaf on this page right here, all of these little veins within the leaf are all interconnected. This is us. We are all part of a network together. It's just sometimes we're not aware of it. But we can consciously grow these networks through our intention to support each other, not ourselves, but each other. So natural networking is coming from the mindset of what do we have in common? It's not necessarily jumping to how can we help each other, because sometimes that's not clear, sometimes it's not meant to be. But we can always look for a commonality between us, no matter who you're approaching, looking for that little overlap. And I'm going to talk about how you can practically do that when you're approaching someone a little bit later on. But it's important to grasp this difference between traditional networking and natural networking. Nature networks in very subtle ways. So the root systems of trees, for example, beneath the ground communicate. And they actually support each other. There's like an energetic supportive container that supports all the trees in the vicinity. So they are in it for each other. They are not in it for themselves. And this is something that's scientifically proven in actually looking at how root systems interact with each other. nature also balances giving and receiving. So there's this natural equilibrium that happens when we let go of force and we allow ourselves to be supported by that natural giving and receiving. Now, if we go into our networking mindset from what can I give, what can I offer, rather than what can I get, the result is completely different. And the giving, of course, has to be genuine. It has to be something that you've genuinely perceived as a commonality between you. But it is still essential to come from that open giving space. Now, what is the holy grail of networking, of marketing in general? It's word of mouth. Word of mouth is the cheapest, most effective way you will grow your business, hands down. It's cheapest because you don't have to spend any money on advertising or marketing. And it's the most effective because it's been proven that referrals from other people who have been in contact with you or worked with you or had an interaction with your business, the referrals that those customers make are more likely to end in sales than anyone you canvass on the street or anyone else you target through your marketing. So the questions to ask, this is where you want to start to reflect on your own work. First of all, how much of your business is referral based? So for me, for 3 years, well, a little less than 3 years, because I did actually start my business through some fairly intense Facebook marketing, Facebook ads. That's how I kicked off my business. But after that, my business has grown through word of mouth. About 80% of my business is through word of mouth. And you can work this out by looking at how many clients you have, how many customers you have, and what percentage of those have come from someone that either knows you or knows one of your customers. So this is going to give you a sense of what the opportunity is to move more into referral-based marketing. The second question is, how often do you give referrals? How often do you give referrals? I didn't say receive referrals, give referrals. A lot of people want referrals, but they don't give referrals. So this is a really key question as well to reflect on. So it'll start to illuminate what your balance of giving and receiving is in relation to your network. And how easy is it for people to refer to you? Do you make it easy for people to refer to you? So for example, do you have a template, a blurb, a link, something that you send to people that they can then send to their contacts, whether it's a one-on-one or if they're, sending an email out to their people or something on Facebook, whatever it is, you want to make that process as easy as possible. So how easy is it right now for people to refer to you? A really common example of this is where I see people say, yeah, sure, refer people, but that is putting the onus on the referrer to come up with all the words, which website or web page they want, they need to send people to. That's not an easy process for the referrer. If you have it, give it to them so they have it in their hands, they know exactly what the steps are to refer to you, then they're far more likely to do that. So just make some notes now about what you see as the opportunities for you. And you might want to put in the chat as well. What are the opportunities around these 3 questions? What's the standout for you that you could start to implement in your business around word of mouth marketing? Okay, no one wants to share. No one wants to give it up. Offer what is it that you could offer right now to inspire someone else to think about something that they perhaps hadn't thought of in their work. Really getting into that mindset of giving right now. Great, Danielle, letting people know how they can refer, providing info and link, as you said. Great, cool, nice and simple. Any other opportunities that you see in your work right now around these 3 points? Toma, I do like the idea of creating a tasty and attractive form or page that others can use to forward to friends. Yes, that's great. Some people I've seen use video. So a video for prospective clients that they can then say to referrers, okay, well, just send them to this page. I'm speaking directly to them. Or it's an overview of exactly what I offer and how I work. That's pretty attentive is the word. Taking care of those potential clients or those people who've been referred. Renee, can we use an incentive to people for referring to us? Yes, we can. I'm going to touch on that in a moment when we get into the 3 questions around networking. Good question. Danielle, I've been pretty good at referring others to people I've worked with. There is still scope there though. Great. That's good that you know that. It's really good to get a sense of your referring nature. Are you inclined to refer people to other people or not? Okay, so let's begin with the first point of natural networking, which is to expand your networks. So this is where you're hands-on, you're drawing some concentric circles on a piece of paper. And this is an exercise that has really been inspired by trees. Trees, if you don't know, you probably know this, but when you cut a tree open, you can see how old it is by the concentric circles around the trunk. And this, you are at the core of the trunk of the tree. You stand in the center. This is your business, what you stand for, what you offer. And around it, you have people who are in your network. So they might be close to you. They might be really resonant in relation to your business, your message, who you serve. Or they might be a little bit distant. So you want to start to map those people on these circles like this. I've chosen some of the names of you here today. How close are they to the core of you and your business? If they're really close, put them in the first circle. If they're a little bit more distant or they're kind of floating around somewhere out there, a little bit sort of connected, but not strongly or closely connected, they go out towards the outside, the outer circles. This is a really simple way for you to start to see your network on paper. Who you are connected to. And you can fill all these circles. Sometimes I don't, mine might be fairly brief like it is on this one. So the idea is not to fill it up and cram it, but you certainly want to start to tune into the people and where they sit in relation to you and your work. How resonant are they with your work? This can include clients, colleagues, like even friends as well, if they're, aligned in any way to your work. If they're not aligned, they can stay on a different network. This is your work network. And it can be quite illuminating doing this exercise to see, first of all, thinking of people in this way. Okay, so I actually have to think of people in a different light now. I have to think about how much do they really get what I'm doing? How much do they believe in it? How have they made any connection with my work at all? The next step is to, and this is quite an intuitive process. Of course, you can do this intellectually, you know, straight from facts and go, okay, so have I had contact with this person? Have I, has this person expressed interest in my work? So it can be very fact-based like that, or it can be more intuitive, or a bit of both. For me, I tend to operate intuitively, and I can sense how close people are in my field, the field of my work, so to speak. The next step is you actually want to circle the people who are really, really strongly connected right now. There might be an opportunity in the near future for you to do something or make an offer, make a connection with that person. So some of these people won't be relevant right now. Might be something down the track that you make a connection with them. But right now you're just looking at, who can I reach out to this week? And just open a dialogue, explore what this might actually mean. And we're going to go into that in the next steps about how you can have those conversations and encourage referrals between you and explore opportunities, because it's not always a direct back and forth. I can refer to you, you can refer to me. There's a whole range of opportunities that can come from this process of really tuning into someone's resonance with your work. And I really want to highlight that this resonance is key. Something I've done myself and I see done a lot is people reach out to people in their network and they have no sense of any resonance. None at all. They haven't either tuned in or asked the questions to see if that person has a level of interest or a level of overlap with their work. You can waste a lot of time reaching out to connections who are not resonant at this time. So this is a deeper process than a lot of networking goes. The next step is to actually think about, who can you connect in your network to each other? So you're drawing lines between people. You're looking at this and saying, okay, so how could I help some of the people in my network? Perhaps there are opportunities for them to connect with each other rather than with me. I'm just the middleman. So when you view your network this way, it's quite a comprehensive process. You're really looking for opportunities here, squeezing them out of what's in front of you. And I've never done this process. This is something that I do regularly. I've never done this process and found nothing. There's always an opportunity. Has anyone had any revelations from this process? If you're doing it now, anything you want to ask or highlight? Is this something that you've done before, or you perhaps have done a little bit differently before? Have you ever looked at your network in this way? Just taking a moment to really glean what this is telling you at this point. No, never. So I'm assuming you mean you've never done anything like this, Danielle. You've never mapped out your network. Good. A lot of people haven't. So this is something that you can practice, and you get really good at it each time you do this process. It's nice to think outside yourself and see the bigger picture on how you could help. Good point, Tegan. Yes, this is seeing the bigger picture. Toma, this is much more deliberate way of looking at relationships. Before, it's been haphazard. I've never mapped it out either. Great. Cherie, looking at the tree rings, but going upwards into the grooves of the tree, especially when the leaves disappear. Interesting. I'd like to know more about what you mean about that, Cherie. Danielle, I've identified one person that I could connect with this week. Great. That's what we want. That's one It's all you need is one opportunity to get the ball rolling. Jody, I have, but I've never felt like I've had much of the network in the past. That is funny to me, Jody, because I know you and you seem to have the biggest network of all. And you are one of those amazing people who refers people to me. So I'm very surprised to hear that. Janet, yes, I love that word, deliberate, Toma. Good. Toma, I feel like I'd need a lot of space unless I want to select only a few people from my network. Yes, you do have a very large network, Toma, as well. Some people need a lot more rings around their tree to complete their network. So you can keep this tight, you know, so really focusing on who are the people who are close, really close right now at this point in time. You can also have multiple networks. So I actually have... for each business project that you have. So some of you know about True Abundance Oasis. I have Sacred Business. I also have Sovereign Business. They all have overlaps between networks, but they are separate networks and you can map them out individually. Just create multiple diagrams like this. Okay. All right. Next, let's look at your referrals. Okay, so referrals. This is where you're really looking for the commonality between two businesses. And this takes practice and it takes dialoguing often with each person, but you can get a sense of what that commonality is before you even reach out to the person. And that's what I recommend, is so that when you actually create an invitation, we're going to go into that next, what those conversations look like. Before you even get to that point, you have a sense, okay, so here's the commonality. Here's where our audiences overlap, for example. It doesn't have to be audience. It could be just a similarity in your work or the way that you work. It doesn't necessarily have to be who you target with your work. But it's really important to get to that point because those linkages are going to show straight up that you've really thought about this connection that you're reaching out to. That it's not just haphazard. It's not just, oh, yep, I'm being opportunistic. I'm just going to see what this person says, or really going in blind when you open those conversations. It's going to help that person to feel respected, honoured, feel special even, because you've given it some thought. Now, it seems so common sense, but it's rarely done. Rarely do I receive an invitation or a request to open a dialogue where someone's really looked at my work and the overlap with their own work, or really lays it in on what it is they want from the connection or what it is they can offer from the connection. So you want to, as soon as you're reaching out to someone, you want to line it up for success from the moment you write or speak your first word. And that starts with honouring the other person, showing them that you've given them the time of day to really think about the connection you're making. Artie, your model helps me see that I'm deliberately waiting for a trickle of right souls to come who are not in my rings or related that way now. Brilliant insight, Artie. Yes, that's such a great point. Often we are not really tuning into who's hot right now, who's a hot contact in my network. So there's hot, warm, and cold. If they're cold, don't bother. Priority is to reach out to the hot ones, and then sometimes you can reach out to the warm ones. They might be a little way off. They may not be feeling that strong resonance, but you can still open a dialogue anyway. Thank you for mentioning that, Artie. Renee, this is awesome. Great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I hope that this is simplifying the networking process for you. And of course, we're in Libra, so Libra is all about one-to-one connection. So we're not talking about canvassing lots of people here. We are reaching out to individuals. We're making it personal. Everything builds on that. It feels so human and authentic. Good, Renee. That's how we want to feel. Okay, so let's go into, because this is really the segue into the main event. The main event is the conversation that you have with people. So you've got a sense of very deliberately who you're reaching out to. You've also looked into their work. You've honored their work and who that person is and what you might have in common. You've given it that time. The next step when you start to open a dialogue is you're looking for that win-win. Now, this is the aim. It is not necessarily what always happens. It is not necessarily what's always meant to happen with each of these connections. Sometimes maybe one person will win, so to speak, as in, you know, I might receive a referral, but I don't have anyone to refer to the other person at that point in time. That's totally fine. Why is it fine? Because you're coming from the place of wanting to give to that connection. It doesn't mean an immediate result. So these conversations, this is the ring, looking at that commonality in the center, what the overlap is, and then capitalizing on that, really going, okay, so what can come from this? And using your curiosity to ask questions and go back and forth in dialogue with that other person and see, okay, so what could come of this? You know, we've got this thing in common. Is that leading anywhere? Is it trying to tell us something? Sometimes the answer may be not right now. That's cool too, because you've still made the connection. So when you're approaching to someone, and I'm going to give a bit of an example of what a written invitation to have a conversation like this might look like. But really, there's a few key things that you want to look out for. So the first thing is it a balanced conversation? Am I doing all the talking or are they doing all the talking? Such a basic thing and so commonly overlooked. Am I listening as much as I'm speaking? So who's getting all the airtime is really key here, because Librans love balance, and that's how Librans are effective networkers. They don't take all the limelight. They don't let the other person take all the limelight. But they really listen when the other person's talking, and then they add something to that. So this is a very fruitful process. Even just this one principle alone is having a balanced conversation, providing you have an energetic match with that person. So as I said before in the previous networking slide, really making sure that that person is resonant right now. It's the right timing. It's the right person. And you feel that, like, you know, it's that synergy between you. You know the timing is ripe and you're having a dialogue. That's when the magic happens. You could do nothing else if you have just those two things. When you're having a conversation with someone about your work or their work, note your interest level. How interested are you in their work? Because we're all interested in our own work, let's face it. We all think our own work is great. But how interested are you in their work? This is going to tell you something. It's going to tell you, first of all, how the other person is feeling. Because if you're not interested, they'll feel that. It's also going to tell you, is this a balanced connection or not? So if you're really interested in what they're saying, what they have to share about their work, then that's a green light. Okay, we're in balance here. We're in synergy together. This is a very good sign. Okay. Is this all making sense? Are you getting ideas? Are you getting resonance for yourself? Has this happened for you before? Any insights you're having about yourself and how you operate in these dialogues? Tegan, totally. Great. This is something that we all, whether we're in business or not, can learn from. Balanced conversation. Librans do it so well. Okay, so let's move on to actually having this dialogue. So I'm going to use the example of a written invitation. Hello, my friend. First line. It was nice to see you at my Facebook Live the other day. What's the point in saying that? Why would I say that? Appreciation, acknowledgement, context to acknowledge them. Awesome. Recognition, make them feel appreciated, grateful. Yes, wonderful. This is your first point of connection. This is showing that I noticed you. I'm aware of you. I've been thinking about you. Did you know that? This always makes me laugh because it's just so human nature. One of the most commonly opened email subjects is I've been thinking about you. And a lot of marketers use this as a strategy, but of course we do it in our own personal lives as well, but it will always get an open because exactly what you've all said here, the other person feels acknowledged. Oh, she noticed me. Someone noticed me. Most basic, fundamental human nature. Let them know that. And of course, if you've done this networking process, these prior steps, and you've really tuned in and you've looked at their work and you've really shown a genuine interest in what they're doing, then this will be completely natural for you to make the first point of connection. Thomas says, your presence matters to me. Well said. That's exactly what this first step is about. So the first step, you could write this down, is connect. Acknowledge. It sounds so basic, but this is so rarely done. It really is. It's rare. Second line or point you want to make. I've been admiring your blog posts lately, and I haven't found anyone else who can talk about business behind closed doors like you do. So what's this one? You've made that initial connection, that acknowledgement. What's the second point about? What purpose does that serve? Make them feel good, Tegan. Make them feel good. Show that you've shown an interest. Danielle, showing interest in them and their work. Bingo. Yep. So this is offering a compliment about something substantial. This is not, you have nice eyes, or I love the color of your website. This is showing that you've done your homework. Exactly what you said, Tegan, that you've done your research. So instantly you're opening a doorway here to, okay, so the other person's going, okay, I'm reading this and I'm going, rightio. So she's looked at my stuff in more detail. Like, there's got to be a reason why. Next, I was wondering if you'd be interested in having a conversation about the overlaps between our work. I know I have clients who could really benefit from what you'd offer, and I'd love to get a better understanding of how our offers complement each other. So that's just an honest statement of, there might be an opportunity here. I see the resonance. I can see what I could offer you. You might be able to offer me something in return, but I'd certainly like to explore what I can offer you. So we don't want to come from the place of, oh, I'm just going to do this for you and it's completely one way, unless you already have an established relationship with that person and, you know, you sort of know how you jam with each other, and, you know, one of you might offer something at one point and then it's returned down the track. That's a little bit different. This is for a new connection. You're being honest in saying that there might be a two-way street here. You're not saying, I'm just going to give you all this stuff and then it seems like a marketing ploy. So, would you like to talk next week sometime? If you received an invitation or a message like this, how would you feel? What would be your response? What would you be inclined to do? Would you like it? Would you be jumping up and down going, bang on, this is awesome. Yes, please, talk to them. Thanks for thinking of me. Awesome. Yeah. So you've been seen. Someone's actually looked in more depth about what you're doing. So your work has been honoured. And there's a present opportunity, perhaps, that you could explore. It's kind of exciting. Adi, I'd say yes, thanks for asking. Yes. Be gracious in your reply and say, thank you so much. This is a lovely invitation. Toma, I'd be blown away and astonished. Well, partly the reason why you'd be astonished is because very few people can do this well. Cherie, jumping, yes, a new connection. See the response that you could conjure in someone by speaking to them in this way. How beautiful. This is how Libra teaches us to share more beauty in this world through our conversations. So this is a balanced approach to networking. I'm just going to take a breath and check the time. So now I want to hear from you. What questions arise from this? Are there any things that come to mind, like different scenarios that you might want to try? Perhaps it came out of your new network little map. You know, reaching out to different types of contacts where perhaps an invitation like this wouldn't apply. We can throw that ball around as well if you need. Feel free to just enter it into the chats and we can come back to the question. So now the question for you is, okay, so who's first on your list to reach out to? And make an invitation somewhat like this. And you can see that, you know, this isn't a template that you can just rip off, because you've got to do your homework. You've got to do your homework for each individual connection. What I see far too often is invitations that have just been copied from person to person to person. They're not even personalized. How do you think that makes the other person feel? Disregard. Oh yeah, this is a Canvas letter. Switch off straight away. Which is how most marketing is done, as we know, especially online marketing. Cherie, a network event operator invites you for one-on-one coffee date. They end up speaking all about them. I'm laughing because I've been in this scenario so many times. They end up speaking all about themselves, and you end up being the listener, comforter for their problems too. How to end that conversation? Very good question, Cherie. A couple of things come to mind. First of all, before you say yes to meeting anyone, you want to get a sense of whether there's a balance in their approach to you first. Is it all about them? In other words, if it's all about them, I would save your time and look elsewhere for someone who's interested in finding that balance. If you still need to meet with them anyway, or you find yourself in that situation, rather than waiting to the end of the conversation, which is what I've done many times myself and ended up walking away very frustrated, by the end of the conversation, your opportunity is over. You're already too pissed off, too unacknowledged, too mowed over to do anything with that. So don't wait to the end of the conversation. Interrupt them when they're on their diatribe and see if you can bring your attention to the imbalance in the conversation. You can ask a question, you can make a statement, but it needs to be made from a place of strength. So rather than going into, oh, I have to respond and I have to help them, they've got a problem, you know, that nature that we go into, saying, okay, where do I stand right now? I have something to offer this conversation, and let them know that you have something to offer. So it could be, for example, would you like to hear about my work? Pretty simple. And if you say it in an assertive tone, would you like to hear about my work? You know, open question. You're not rousing on them, but you're snapping them out of their litany. That can work. But there's a lot of different things that can work. But there's just some ideas. That's a good question, Cherie. I'd love to throw this around for much longer. Yes. Okay. So I can see you're talking about this one. It's such a common scenario. But definitely try and snap people out of it if they're in imbalance in the conversation. That can work wonders. Don't wait till the end. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Good, Cherie. I'm glad that helped. So we have a few more minutes left, and I'm going to do a brief little planning session at the end of the hour for those of you who want to learn a bit more about the Natural Cycle Planner and how to use it in your planning for each month. If you can't stay behind, that's okay. It will be recorded and you'll all receive the recording via email in the next few days. All right, so just to recap, we've covered some key things today. We've talked about your network. First of all, mapping out your network, the importance of that. Stick it up on your wall so you see it all the time. And you can even, you know, if you're crafty like that, you can cut out names and move them around because they will move around. People will drop out of the network, new people will come in, they'll be close to the core and move away. Whatever it takes for you to really get a sense of where you sit in that network all month. Immerse yourself in it all month. We've also looked at your referrals and how you can make referrals by looking at the commonality between you and someone else and open up that referral network so that people get a better sense of what you offer, and making it easy for them to refer to you. And how you actually have these conversations is key. This is where people feel acknowledged and open or disregarded and closed. And that all comes down to how you handle the conversation. So, are there any questions before we finish? Any burning questions about what we've covered today or about networking in general? I'm always happy to answer your questions. We can keep jamming after this. I just want to mention this final slide for some of you who are new to natural cycle planning. There is a hashtag that we use called natural timing. So you'll see it in the group, you'll see it on Instagram, on my Facebook business page, and some of you are using it, the hashtag in your own posts as well. This is just really getting the concept of natural timing out there, what it really means in business or in life. Sacred Business is also on Instagram now, if you'd like to follow me. I do put a little bit on there about my travels. For those of you who don't know, I live in a motorhome and travel around the natural wonders of Australia and have done for the last 3 years. And there's also a Natural Cycles Google Calendar. I'm going to provide some details on how you can leverage this in your own planning. But very briefly, it means that there's a calendar that outlines all of these monthly workshops, when they are every month, and what the theme is, as well as the new moon, full moon, and turn of the cycle. So if you're not familiar, the turn of the cycle, according to the natural cycle of the moon and the sun and the zodiac, it happens around the 23rd of the month. So that's why this plan is a little bit different. It does take a bit to get used to, but the Google Calendar's there to integrate with your own calendar and give you some guidance when you're making your scheduling online. So other than that, thank you so much for coming along. And if you feel like this is something that you've really enjoyed today, tell your friends about it. Tell your colleagues in business about it. I would really appreciate those contacts from you who've experienced this directly and what natural networking is all about. So thank you all very much. I'll be staying on. If you have to go, that's totally okay. All right. Danielle said some commonalities, for example. Okay, so I'm going to use an example that I had just the other day, actually. So the lovely Toma introduced me to Rick Hansen, who's a career coach or career guidance professional who helps people find their calling when they're in transition between careers. He also coaches coaches in that domain of helping other people to find their calling. And he uses the natural cycles as a way of helping people to find their calling. There's a whole system based on the seasons that he uses. So we had a conversation the other day, and that was a very clear resonance straight away that we both use natural cycles in our work. So that's a very obvious commonality and something that's on my website, it's on his website. It's actually why Toma introduced us. When we had a conversation, we got a lot deeper into where the overlap starts and ends between our work. So as an example, Rick works with people finding their calling. I work with people once they found their calling. So, and specifically people in business. So he works with people in business and in careers, in employment. He helps them architect what that calling looks like. And only then would I take over for the people who really want to establish that in the business context. So that little overlap in the center has a start and an end. It has boundaries. So you can see very clearly where that overlap, that transition happens between your work and their work. That's an example that sort of highlights the continuum approach, you know. So, okay, well, once you're finished with them, then they have to keep going. So who do you pass them on to? It doesn't have to be that direct, but that's just an example that comes to mind. Good. Okay, so that helped. Excellent. Toma, thank you so much for this. It was brilliant and different. I think she might be gone, but thank you. All right, so I'm going to do some planning now. Feel free to keep asking questions if there's any more. Okay, I'm going to stop this and go back. All right. So can everyone see this is the Libra networking cycle for the month, exactly what's behind me here. this is what the natural cycle planner looks like. And each month, your task at the turn of the cycle is to do two things, essentially. You set your intention for the cycle in the theme. So what's your intention for this networking theme? I'll give you some examples in a moment. And what are the actions? What are the strategic actions that are going to help you fulfill that intention this month? Not putting every single action that you do in your business. These are the key ones that help you to fulfill that intention of networking, expanding your networks for the month. Now, this cycle here, for those who are new to it, you can see the moon cycle very clearly building up to the full moon and waning again towards the end of the month. So as a general rule, the energy builds, people's emotional energy builds throughout the month leading up to the full moon. So the full moon is a great time to release the seed of the month, you know, the big action that you need to take. Often it might be, you know, for this month, it could be, this is when you want to, I was going to say actually make those connections in your network, but really that can happen any time of the month, but it depends what response you're looking for. So the full moon this month is Libra, but it's in Aries. So you've got this balance of harmony and partnership combined with that full-on powerful Aries, you know, horns first, really powering forward and bulldozing oftentimes. So, you know, if you're wanting a really placid kind of connection, then maybe not on the Aries full moon would be my suggestion. But if you're wanting a powerful response and you really want to make waves, then that's what you want to hook into around that time. So you can time your actions according to the lunar cycle throughout the month. So again, looking at releasing major projects around the full moon and seeding new projects around the new moon. So we've just had a new moon and we're building up now, but we'll also end the month on a new moon. So that's when we want to plant seeds for the following cycle. This is a general guide. It's not hard and fast. It is just so we start to attune to, okay, so what's the moon doing? How are people likely to be feeling, responding to the offerings I'm making, to the invitations I'm sending out, all that kind of thing. You might have noticed around eclipse season in the last couple of months, you know, it wasn't the best time to get people to commit to anything because there is so much intense change happening. So if you're wanting them to commit, for example, to a year-long program around eclipse time, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Depending on who your tribe is, you know, some tribes might operate differently, but generally speaking, it's a very intense time and you want to wait till the dust has settled a little bit after an eclipse before you ask for any major commitments. Danielle, is planting and releasing the seed the same thing? No. Good question. Planting the seed is starting a new project, something new. And it doesn't mean you're taking big action. It just means you're starting, you know. So it might be, like I said, it could be sending an invitation. It could be just simply sending an email. It could be putting something into writing that you don't plan to release for some time. It's just, okay, my intention is for this cycle, I want to start this. I want to kick off with this. Releasing the seed is when on the full moon, when you're actually sharing it, releasing it into the world. So it's grown up a little bit, the seed started to germinate, and then you're letting people know about it. This is not a direct, okay, so I planted the seed on the new moon and I have to release it on the next full moon. It's not like that. You might release it on 5 full moons down the track. But there'll always be something that will be coming to fruition around the full moon. Cool, that's clear. Great. Cycle intention and actions. Okay, so your intention can be tangible. It can be, you know, I I want to make this amount of money this month, or I want to make this many connections this month. If that's what you choose, something measurable like that, I recommend that you really make sure that you're connected to that. You feel it, it feels realistic to you, and that it's coming from somewhat from intuition as well. Personally, I tend not to set tangible intentions. My intentions are very intangible. So for example, this month my intention is to create aligned connections with ease and share beauty and care through my interactions. So there's nothing tangible about that statement, but I can feel it, and it ends up being the undercurrent for my entire month. That then informs the tangible actions. So as an example, one action for this month is expanding the Friends of the True Abundance Oasis network, starting a Facebook live show. So that's very much about, you know, inviting people to attend, telling people about the existence of this new show and speaking. So Librans are great talkers. So you want to have that back and forth on Facebook Live, which is what it's intended for. So that's a very Libran action. Also, another project I'm working on with my colleague Sarah Kay Jones. We have formed a partnership, and this month we're actually creating a declaration of that partnership and what it looks like. Mainly because we're teaching partnership, and that's one of the things that we're going through ourselves in order to then guide others through creating business partnerships themselves. So doing similar things to what we've done together. So again, a very Libra themed action. So you might want to just take a moment to reflect on what your actions could be for the month. If you want to ask questions or you're not sure, feel free. So I should mention here as well that the way that the 12 business functions of the year operate is that you simply have a different priority each month, or a different emphasis in your work. So I'm going to be focusing on networking now, and then I'm not going to focus on it in any major way until this time next year, where I actually review, okay, how am I doing my networking now? You know, putting a lot of energy into it. It doesn't mean that I do no network diagrams throughout the year, or I don't do any invitations throughout the year. It simply means it's not my main focus for another year. And what that does is it actually gives you a full 12-month cycle to go through before you actually reach the next evolution of how you do networking and how you expand your network. So in 12 months' time, this will look quite different for you. It'll be a whole new exploration. You'll be 12 months more advanced, and your business will have grown. Your skills have developed. So each year it looks different. All right, so that's pretty much it in terms of planning. I've done a little bit of a crash course. There are more in-depth videos in the group that you can look at. But essentially, if you just did this, you'd be getting a lot out of this planner that can help you to look at how you plan your business in a whole new light. As you can see, it's very simple. You simply have an intention and you have actions for the month, and then you follow that. You follow your plan each month. Toma, what if you decide that this approach to networking is something you really want to do a lot of? Okay, good question. Great. If you can fit it in with next month's theme and the theme after that and the theme after that, that's fine. This is about what is realistic for you to accomplish each month. Because next month you're going to be focusing on partnership, which builds on this month. But after that, it's distribution. After that, it's evaluation. After that, it's innovation, then vision, then we keep going. So there's a different focus each month. It just means that you can keep going, but only if it's realistic for you to handle that in amongst all of the other functions you're doing. Because you might say this every month. Okay, so next month I want to do a lot of partnership, or month after that I want to do this every single month. That's what creates the overwhelm. So there's no hard and fast rules. You don't have to ditch this at the end of the month, but I certainly wouldn't be making it your focus next month. Toma, but business always requires us to do many things at once, correct? So this is simply an emphasis. And this is where I should highlight that this is when you're reviewing how you do networking. So one time each year that you really look at this and go, how do I want to do this differently? What am I doing? What am I not doing? And then once you get clear on that, you can keep networking throughout the full year if it's a major part of what you do, but you're not going to review how you're doing it because you're going to be reviewing other things. You're going to be learning other skills. You're going to be emphasizing other functions of business. Thanks, Danielle. Oh, you're up in the middle of the night. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for coming. Cool. Renee, thanks so much for this, Nat. Oh, no, that's a different one. Renee, seems like there's more balance. Yeah, if networking isn't the primary focus all of the time. That's it. That's exactly what I'm saying. We can't have everything be our primary focus all the time. So this month we're really giving it the attention it deserves and really looking at what we're doing here and learning new skills about networking so that for the rest of the year it can just hum. Does that help, Toma? Okay. The idea of considering how we want to network. Great. Lovely. Artie, and the same for the zodiac signs. Is the Natural Cycles Google Calendar available for us to download or something? Yes, I'm going to put something in the group with the links and show you what you need to do there. So yes, you can all access it. And are the lunar cycles already imprinted on it? Only the new moon and the full moon are on that Google Calendar. And yes, the zodiac signs are on the Google Calendar as well. So you have all the turns of the cycle on that calendar, which you can then see, you know, in the context of your other, your business schedule and other appointments. All right. Any other questions? All good? Thank you all so much. Cherie, how do we network and be open to the unexpected? I might need more information, Cherie. I'm happy to answer that, but can you, maybe I'll unmute you in a moment. I'll just answer Artie's question. Yes, it will be in the Facebook group that I just added you to, Artie. Yes. Cool. I'm just going to unmute you, Cherie, so you can ask that directly. Hello.
Oh, it wasn't really a question. It was a statement. Okay. When we network and we put out the intention of an outcome that is beneficial for all through the nature cycle, through the branches growing upwards, and it can be totally beautiful because you don't know who you're going to meet. You just don't know who you're going to meet. I've had this experience today with a networking group, and it's about invitation. Yeah. We're here in Canada now, so it's in the invitation of dropping the leaves and seeing those lines in the trees go upwards. What's going to go upwards and branch out into the cosmos, because we don't have those leaves to see the veins in them, but if we're branching outwards, it's to be left to the unknown, and we don't see that reality.
Well said. That feels like the closing statement of this call. I can't top it.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. It's been such a pleasure to be with you all, and thank you for all your feedback that is yet to come. So I will be sending an email out. I would really appreciate your feedback.